Hey, happy Saturday, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to do a video and just talk about the volume on the LTCN Litecoin Trust. And there's some interesting things here that I thought I would share with you guys. I've talked about some of these things before, and specifically about the trust volume. We trade on average about 1.5% of the trust shares. So about 1.5% of the trust turns over every single trading day on average, because we were trading about 250,000 shares per day on average, and we got about 16.2 million shares in the trust. So that's about 1.5% of the trust is being turned over on a daily basis on average. So, but we had a big day just last month in January where 10% of the trust was transferred. Let me show you this. Now, this information you can get from NASDAQ.com. You can go look at the historical data for LTCN. It'll give you the open and close price and the volume for the day on any given day. And this day at the bottom here, January 9th of this year, we had 1.6 million shares of the trust be traded. That constitutes 10% of the trust. That is a huge whale-sized portion of the trust that was traded on that day. And that's the day the opening price on that day was $14.50, and we closed at $10.55. I would have thought that if 10% of the trust was sold off on a given day, that the trust would have dumped a whole lot more than that. But that's obviously, there are a lot of people interested in LTCN wanting to get in, and they scooped up the shares, because to me, dumping 10% of the trust on a single day would have had a much more dramatic decrease, impact on the price. Like the price would have gone down a whole lot more, but it didn't. And that's probably because people are looking to get in, and they were scooping that up, buying it as the price came down. So that to me is fascinating, because that's a whole large chunk. And if you here's the banging noises, there's construction nearby, so I apologize for that. But the 10% is a tremendously large percentage of the trust. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And let me just show you what happened on that day. This is the day where things cratered. Now you can see this is the day here where things really took off. Let me just zoom in. Well, it doesn't. I don't really need to zoom in. But this day, where we went from just under $15 down to 10 something, that's the day we sold off 10% of the trust. That's what effect it had. And I would have thought that it would have had a much larger impact, but I think it didn't, because a lot of people are looking to get in to this trust, and they scooped up the shares as the price was coming down. But if there weren't buyers, if there weren't people waiting to get in, then it probably would have cratered a whole lot more. But that's what happened on that day. We traded 10% of the LTCN trust, which is an enormously high percentage of the trust. Like I said, I'm surprised the price didn't come down more, because that's just a gargantuan chunk of the trust to transfer. Actually, let me just go back here real quick. Okay, so yeah, again, as I mentioned, we got 16.2 million shares in the trust, and we traded 1.6 million. That was like, that's a crazy high volume, large, tremendously large turnover in the fund. Let me go back to the NASDAQ site here. This is actually kind of interesting. You can go back and look at the volumes way back when this trust was first opened, when it was first started in 2020, in July of 2020. They don't have volume information for the first couple of days, but then they do as they move into August here. It's just a couple thousand shares being traded, as we moved into the bull run of 2020. It wasn't that much, per day. And I'm just kind of moving forward in time here. A couple thousand. Interest didn't start to pick up really in this trust until basically after the bull run was over. And people started, this is in June of 2021, when things kind of cratered, and it's like people started to get interested in this because they saw the price action. And from here, we see the volume start to pick up. Now, it varies day to day, but this is going back to 2021, where we're trading over 100,000, 200,000, sometimes even almost 500,000 shares per day. That's a pretty big percentage like a 500,000 shares is almost 3% of the trust, and that's pretty crazy. So we had one day back in here, September 2021. Again, this isn't 10%. It's probably like 8% of the trust or something. I'm not going to do the math in my head. I'm probably a little off. That's a huge chunk. I think it's like 8% or so, something like that, of the trust volume. And we had another day where we had almost 1 million shares, 900,000, which is a tremendous day as well. Probably about 5-6%, 6% probably, or a little bit more of the trust being shared or traded. And then the volume, it varies obviously day to day, but it's like there's pretty healthy volume going back here for 2 or 3 years. And I'm bringing this stuff up because it varies every day when people get in, because this is crypto winter. We're talking 2022 here, but still a pretty healthy volume. But volume definitely is significantly bigger than when this fund was first launched, like last bull run. It's much bigger now than it was back then. And just scrolling through really quickly, 2022, getting into December 2023. So we're kind of moving through time here. And you can, again, as I said, you can just go through NASDAQ.com and get all this information for LTCN. You can get it for BCHG. You can get it for other stocks and stuff. It'll show you this kind of information. But, it's been especially, I would say, in the past, when volume really started to pick up. And we started to get pretty healthy volume late last fall, and it stayed pretty consistent. It's it's gone up. We saw pretty big increases around the beginning of this year, where things started to kind of pick up, and then again, it's like January 9th, man, that's 1.6 million shares of the trust were traded. It's pretty crazy, but we've been averaging about 250,000 shares per day on average when you look at a 10-day average, which is, I would say it's a pretty healthy volume. It's 1.5% or thereabouts of the trust every single day. But like I said, like the impact of trading 10% of the trust shares on a single day, I thought it would have been greater. I thought it would have been a much more bigger impact than having had happened what we did. It's like we dropped from just under $15 to in the $10 range. And that's, about 30% drop or so. I would have thought it would have dropped far more than that. But obviously people are interested in this trust. They're looking to buy. So that's why it probably didn't crater more. But just interesting stuff. Again, if you want to look at the volume stuff, you can go to NASDAQ.com. TradingView also has it. I haven't visited TradingView, but that's what Cesar and other people use for TA. It'll show you the volume there too on the charts. But just wanted to share this with you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.